So it's a nice day, so I'm starting underneath the camper. This section here, let's see, where's my lens? There it is. Okay. This section here is the underside of the stuff that I patched on the floor. Now, this time I'm going to say I don't want to do something, and this time I really mean it. I don't want to have to take this piece off to recut out the pieces and re-weld it in. Now, I've mentioned every time I say that, I end up having to do it, but this time I'm really going to try hard not to. There's a rectangle of a piece that's above it. So what I think I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to cut this metal off from underneath with square cuts rather than this sort of ragged, rusty stuff. And then I'm going to see if I can either spot weld it together after pulling it together with some self-tapping screws, or with a hammer to push it up into place and then seal it. So this is one of the things I have to deal with. Another thing I need to deal with is adding, let me see, get back a little, adding flanges here to hold this vertical piece that I added to the cross member. I got to do that there, and I got to do that down there as well. And then on the other side of that beam is where I cut out some more stuff. So, yeah, that came out pretty good. This one, I think probably what I'll do is just grind it and seal it. So I went ahead and I cut shallow cuts to get to the sheet metal that I had welded above. I spot welded, tack welded all the way around, and then ground it off. It doesn't look as good painted when it's wet, but it'll hide nicely with sealant. All right, so I cut the square out and I tack welded around the edges of the square, and I am going to smear body seam sealant on it when this is dry. Hopefully hide some of the ugly welds, but that's got to be good enough. This is what started it all. This hole right here, this rusted part, they wouldn't pass the inspection. That's the hole that started all this mess, and I haven't even gotten to it, and you can see it's all rusted inside. Yeah, someday. It's finally time to attach the bent piece of metal. I'm pretty happy about that. I've been working a lot to get to this point. I trim it to length based on the width of the section that I have to cover the propane compartment with the door that the propane compartment is covered with. And I have one more little piece to add to the end of the metal underneath. I had cut it off originally, and so you saw in the previous videos that I have two long pieces of metal to one side and then a shorter piece. So I need to add another piece of metal right to that little one there. So that's with the extra piece that I'm cutting, and then I will start to fit the stuff. Perfect. Perfect. And so, delusionally happy, I proceed to nibble the little spot weld holes in the piece of metal. I clean the sharp razor edges off, and then I proceed to show the same clip again, which is a bit strange if you ask me. Not sure why I did that. Could go back and edit it out. It is fascinating though. Anyway, I take that piece and I mark the holes underneath where I'm going to do the welding. Then I scrape away the paint from where I'm going to be welding the holes through. And I'm still trying at this point to use the weld through primer, and I gotta say, I am not happy with the weld through primer. It's basically paint that has a high zinc content, which is supposed to give you enough electrical conductivity to burn away the paint so that you can weld through it. I just don't think it's working really good. That's why later on you'll see I try to come up with another solution on what to do. But here I'm unaware of my future trials and tribulations in this project, and I just, I get to it. Do the spot welds, check it, have fun, burn myself, lots of sparks, lots of burns. It seems like it's going good. At this point, I think I'm doing well. After I get the spot welds done, I will then grind it off. I'm not exactly sure where the hinge is going to lay up against it at this point, so I want to make sure that there aren't any bumps that are going to make it hard to adhere the hinge. If you're wondering why I use nozzle gel, it really keeps your tips clean, especially if you're using flux core, which I'm not, but you just dip the hot tip into the gel will turn to a liquid, it'll boil off, it'll sizzle away, and it'll just clean the copper right up again, and it'll keep you getting a good electric arc.
Oh no, it didn't weld. Oh my God, what an a-hole I am. Look at that. It did not weld. Weld it over here. Oh no. Oh, how horrible.
I really did not get good adhesion, and I'm not sure why. I've tried a couple of things. I've tried scraping the metal, I've tried clamping it, I've tried getting it close. When I tested this on the bench, I could see I was getting penetration and the welds were strong. But on this piece here, in welding like this, I just could not get a good penetration weld, and it just kept popping. It could be maybe the temperature change, the shrinking and moving of the metal. I'm not sure, but I'm definitely going to have to spend some time looking at videos to find out how to do a good spot weld. Otherwise, it's not going to hold, and that'll be dangerous.
All right, I'm gonna finish by just spray painting over this. Maybe I'll get, no, just go spray paint over it. I was going to go continue to work on putting the folded piece on tonight, but I'm getting to the point, obviously, where I'm tired, where I'm making mistakes like that. So I'm not gonna do that right now.
Early the next morning at 11 a.m., I decided to go ahead and try to attach the folded piece of metal. I nibbled across that angle piece that I had stuck up underneath. My plan is, put the bent metal behind it, and then I'll weld through that. And then I will weld the metal down at the bottom as well. I'll, nibble some holes in the bottom and cut my finger, which, I couldn't stop thinking about. So I got my grinder and I cleaned off the metal a little more, clamped it on, and started, preparing to add the door and weld this in. And I'm noticing a couple of things. At this point, I'm still thinking maybe I can make it work, but I'm noticing the piece is too wide. Just to check, I bring the door on and I look, and yeah, when the door is attached, the bottom of the door that's just supposed to go flat against that piece, it can't, because the bent part is still in the way. Even if I move the piece up, because I had planned to maybe cut it, it won't work. So like a tailor with chalk, I am marking where I need the flat piece to be.
Well, my exuberance after yesterday has dissipated. Turns out I was right before. This is too large I'm going to have to bend a new one. I do have extra metal, so I've got plenty of metal that I can bend it with. I'm going to take it back down to the makerspace and do it. Also, I'm not sure what the hell I measured, but this is way too short on that side. The trouble is, it's now pretty well freaking welded on there. So I guess I have to try to find a way to cut that off as well. So I guess tonight I'm going to cut this piece off if I can. And then I will go down tomorrow morning and bend this piece, bend a new one. And hopefully that will be that. All right, I have invented another tool, like my Sawzall wire brush tool. So one of the problems that I have is I got bad adhesion through these spots. And, I tried a couple of things. I tried weld through primer, I tried scraping off. But I wanted to know, why can't I just scrape the hole out once I have it in place? Because I want to leave enough paint behind there to prevent rust. So what I have done is I took a drill bit. Let me see if I can show it to you. And I cut it and ground it so that it was flat. And I cut a little notch in the center. And I made I counter ground a little bit the edges of the flutes so that I can make this tiny little scraper. And what I'll do is put it in a hole, roll it around, and voila. Scraped hole on the inside for welding. I have no idea if this is going to make a better weld before, but can't hurt. I like it. All right, I'm going to do these, and I'm going to get the welder out, and I'm going to try spot welding, and then see if my adhesion is better than the last time. All right, so obviously I left a little dot in the center from where I cut out, so I'm going to follow it up with a pilot tapped drill that will drill out that center piece and also scrape a little around the edges. So this should make a good weldable spot. The reason I didn't do this to begin with is because the pilot drill is beveled. It would have only got the center and left paint ring around the inside, which is what I was trying to avoid. So I think between these two drill bits, I actually have good metal that I should be able to get a nice little spot weld on. Here's hoping.
So that's how I'm trying to get better penetration. I've got bare metal on the back. I've got bare metal on the front. I've grounded both pieces with the grounding clamp. I've scraped both sides. And I'm welding, a good sized plug of metal. It's 1/4 of an inch that I would expect would adhere both pieces. Not sure why I killed the sound on this, but basically what I'm saying here is that a couple of the welds broke and I had to re-weld them, but it was better than the first time. I also welded over the screw holes, and that is definitely holding up a little better than the last piece did. So, buoyed by that, I went ahead and attached the newly bent piece of metal. This one came out a lot better. I didn't have to bend it with a hammer. I had much wider surfaces for the sheet metal brake to bend against, and I was able to do the whole thing for the most part on the sheet metal brake. So I got both the upper and the lower flange pieces straight. This using a self-tapping screw, I found, is definitely helping pull the metal together so that you can get a good weld. And then afterwards, I could just weld over where the screw hole is. Took my hammer and dolly hammers and bent in a little piece that wasn't flush up against, got that pretty good. And I got to check it, and it was much, much, much better. So now I'm using my 2 drill bit scraping milling tool that I invented, which is based on an end mill, so I really didn't invent it, whatever. Scraped out the holes, cleaned them up, and got to welding.
So what I'm trying to do to get a good spot weld that bonds both is, now that I've sort of cut out the middle there like that, I'm starting in the middle and I'm going to wait until it establishes the pool, and then I go around the edge. And I'm hoping that this now will be the right technique that will keep me from having broken welds, and it'll give me a really good hold.
It definitely worked better. One of the other problems that I'm still having is, even though I go around the edge, I'm not getting a weld on the outer piece of metal, the one that has the hole in it, all the way around. When I'm done, I look and I can see like maybe a crescent on some of the spots that show that I didn't get all the way around. So that could be part of the problem why I'm not getting a good weld. Later on, the spot welding is going to be an issue when I get to working on the fender well, the wheel well. I guess I'm going to have to completely butt and stitch weld the metal together, because I can't trust these spot welds to hold with the force that's going to be applied on the shock tower. So between now and then, I'm going to really be trying to think of the proper way to get that welding done so it'll form a really strong connection.
That is done. Just like that.
Okay, right as the seam changes, look at the first seam from the left as I start to grind, and you will see the spot weld just pop open. Okay, right there, watch it, right there. You see that? It just popped right open. If you didn't see it, go back and look again, you'll see it. That's the problem I've been having with these damn spot welds. I'm not sure what it is. I really got to figure that out. But it's definitely going to be a problem when I get to later, so definitely something I'm going to have to research and work on. It took forever to grind all of those down, like hours. Easily 2 hours. This isn't the whole video.
I may not have even recorded everything I just said. Unfortunately, on this last piece, all 6 of these spot welds broke while I was grinding. The spot welds closest to the ends here and here broke, and this one broke. I don't know how many broke up here. It's funny, you know, when you're working, you can hear that pop, and you can hear them break. So I heard that while I was grinding. I have to grind these down because this is where the hinge is going to lay against. So it has to be pretty much flat. These doesn't matter as much, so I'm not going to grind all of those down. I'm just going to brush this and paint it. But these down here, I'm going to have to do again. So I'm going to get the drill out and re-drill those holes. Note to self, always make sure you're recording before you start talking. Today, I need to attach the propane door over the propane compartment by screwing the hinge to that piece of metal down there that I welded on yesterday. I got to trim the excess metal off afterwards. Before I can do that, I need to attach the fender well so that I have something on each side to adjust the height so I know where it is. The problem is the fender well clips on here with these little clips, and it clips on with a little plastic bracket that goes down. It's an angle bracket, looks like this, and so this clips into that thing. But when I was removing or putting this on a couple of times, I cracked off this side, and that'll make it so that it won't adhere to that side. It's actually a problem I have over on this fender, like that. You see this nice long piece right there? That came out so much easier than I thought it was. I totally didn't even think about that. So my plans have suddenly changed. I'll explain that in a minute. So what I was thinking of doing was just getting a piece of metal and bending it, and then riveting it on here from the outside. That would look not great, but it would work. However, now that I see how long this piece is, and I have to adhere it to that one over there anyways, what I think I'll do is I think I'll just trim off a little piece off of this one and glue it on here and see if that holds. Of course, I have to take this broken piece off, and so for that I'm going to go to my friend the torch, and I'm going to try heating up the scraper and see if I can get it to come off. So that is what I'm doing today. So, all right, I got the adhesive off. I wiped it down with acetone. The adhesive still has a lot of residue right here. I don't know if that's going to be a problem for sticking it back on. The other side is clean, so I can always use that if I have to. I cut a piece off with my oscillating tool. So this piece has to stick back on right here. I know that I once saw a video about like 3M aircraft adhesive tape, and I'm wondering if that's something I can get, or if maybe the auto parts store will have trim adhesive that I can get. So I'm going to go drive out and look for that. Otherwise, I think I will just get some epoxy, and I will try to stick it on with epoxy. We'll see what works. I don't know if the adhesive will stick to the remains of the adhesive that's on this side. I don't know, but I bought this 3M super strength molding tape, and I'm gonna give it a shot to adhere this back on. There it is. I've got it clamped in. The instructions don't say how long to make it wait. I think I'm gonna wait, at least a minute or two, and then see if it seems to be holding. Seems pretty good. Seems to have adhered pretty well. I'm gonna go try putting it on, and then we'll continue with the door. Nice.
So I'm in the home stretch. I attached the door, and I'm not showing you the hours I spent trying to get this on, probably 2 hours. I had to drill the holes over and over because I would put 2 screws in, close the door, it would look good, and then when I put all the screws in, because of the warp of the backing metal, it would change the position of the door latch. So I did this maybe 3 times, and I finally got it just right.
All right, I just got to zip off that bit down below, and that will be done. This is done. This part here and all the rust up to this point is fixed. Up to this point. It's painted, it's primed. I can do some sealing under it later. Next, I'm gonna do that part. Then I'm gonna keep working my way forward until I take care of that. Then this side of the camper will be done as far as I even care. Thanks for watching.